Hey, what's up? It's Thomas with a special episode about our favorite cars for 2018. Which cars were our favorite ones? Which one do we especially remember? Which one were somehow special, unique, or just good overall? And I will just start with my list. And I'll just do it in an alphabetical order as for the brands, so there's no rating in between. I just want to tell you which ones, were the ones that I found somehow special. So I want to start with the Audi A6 or A7 or A8. Basically the same vehicles as for the base setup, so the new big Audi sedans, and I found them quite remarkable because they were very comfortable and silent to ride, and especially on the longer term run. So when I think about what was the best motorway vehicle in this year I've driven, probably would have been an Audi A6. Then the Audi Q8, just had that recently because it is one of those, at least for us Europeans, already a full-size SUV. However, the suspension was a very good compromise between comfort and sportiness. The interior has been updated and it was also such a great ride overall. Of course, with every car we present, there are a lot of pros and cons, and for that, there are also our full reviews, but I found the Q8 among the overall best ride in the SUV segment if you think about driving fun. If you then think about, rather a very soft air suspension in a big SUV, coming soon to another favorite there in that segment. What else? Well, as for the mid-size SUV segment, I found the BMW X3 very nice. So in this all-new generation, I think it was a good overall match, and especially because it is one of the most silent rides in the mid-size SUV segment. I found that one really cool. Again, if you want to see a full review of any of the cars I mentioned, they will be linked in the video description below. I also want to mention always not only premium vehicles, because it's easy to impress with premium vehicles in a way because, they're very high in budget, in price, of course, and then, they have good rides, good suspension, and so on and so on. It is harder to impress with a non-premium car, with a car that you can also get for some less money, because you have just less budget for, whole development of the vehicle, for example, and then of course for the, each individual price, you really have to see how can we bring the price down as a manufacturer. And I found the Mazda 3 in the all-new generation quite impressive. We haven't driven the series production model yet, but I've already driven the prototype, and combining this one with seeing the actual production car from exterior and interior, I found it pretty cool because the all-new Mazda 3 is a very attractive offering, price-performance-wise in this segment. They also include a lot of standard equipment directly without, some extra clicking nonsense, and then you get like double the price. So that looks pretty promising. And it's also a design focus, so you get something special already, although you're just buying a compact hatch. Then, well, it's not entirely new, but there was a facelift for the Mercedes C-Class and the Mercedes C-Class convertible facelift. We had that review there. I just picked that one as one of my favorites because it's in general one of my favorite cars, because this convertible, I like to drive with open top. I just love convertibles. And then the C-Class convertible is, it's not a very small one, which could be, let's say, too sporty because it's maybe uncomfortable for longer rides. But then again, it's not so huge like an E-Class convertible or like a very big GT convertible or something. So it has let's say a ride size that you can still do a lot of things with it. You already have the comfort, but then again, you're not getting too large from the exterior dimensions that you cannot park it anywhere or something. Then the Mercedes GLE, I already mentioned that, versus the Audi Q8. It's the same segment, but the GLE is one of those SUVs who still remain with this soft carpet ride air suspension. Of course, the all-new suspension inbuilt in that too, with this leaning inside the corner and this low rider function that was very funny to see. However, when I have a big full-size SUV, I rather expect, a softer air suspension if I go for the air suspension, like with the Touareg and also with the GLE, because that accounts for this very special comfort. However, recently the Audi Q8 was one of the very first cars that showed me, yeah, it has a little stiffer of a setup, but it's still very comfortable, but also then a little bit more fun to drive. So if you think about Q8 versus GLE, the GLE would rather be, if you really appreciate this flying comfort, and the Q8 if you want to have it more a little bit as a driver's car, but still have good comfort, but not that soft. Then also to finish up Mercedes, I think the best Mercedes in this year was the Mercedes B Class. If you take everything together, yeah, I said also in the review, it's not the sexiest one for sure from the whole lineup. It is more, let's say, logical car. Still, it's not a cheap car at all, by no means. But it has the same length as the A Class, and it offers a lot of room. It's the best package in any Mercedes in the whole lineup, so you can do a lot with the vehicle, rear legroom, also trunk variation, and so on. And the ride was astonishingly sporty. So if you compare it to the previous generation B Class, I mean, we were driving a normal B Class with a normal engine, and it felt so well balanced and sporty that it was, I said, oh, yeah, you can buy a B Class to have sporty, fun riding in, corners and stuff. And everyone was like, what? But yeah, that was the case. That I found very interesting. Then engine concept-wise, also not really new cars, but we had one feature this year with the Seat Leon and the Seat Ibiza as TGI, so the CNG, the natural gas engines. And I just want to point that out because, yeah, we've been also talking a lot about electric drive and maybe even hydrogen drive, but CNG is often forgotten, and it's a very evolved technology. It's cheap to produce. And the fuel, it burns, or in this case the gas, it burns way cleaner than anything else. And so you also don't have so much problems with emissions and stuff. And I saw, this was for me basically the forgotten cars of 2018. It's working pretty well. Everyone can go for it. And there are also, at least, in my area here, for example, a lot of fuel stations for that, so that wouldn't be a problem. So I think also definitely one technology to look out for if you want something more sustainable as an alternative drivetrain, so to say. And then also a short preview. Also, we are soon going to have a full review of that one, of the Suzuki Jimny, because that one I found peculiar because it's also not a very expensive car. Still, it got so much emotions from people, because people were like, oh, that looks so cute, it looks like a small G-Class. Then people were saying, no, the G-Class is like a big Jimny, look at what's coming in front. Oh, and then the third was saying, wait a minute, what about the Jeep Wrangler or the Land Rover Defender? Weren't they starting it? And, well, you can have a lot of discussion about that, but bottom line is that the Suzuki Jimny, the all-new generation, is really, characterful in the whole appearance, and cute and strong at the same time, and people just want to see it and say, oh my god, I really love that vehicle. Of course, we'll experience it even more in depth, not only from the exterior, but I think it was quite significant also from our motor show coverage. You could see this is a car that can really arouse a lot of emotions in people, and that's also the reason I picked it as my favorite for this year in 2018. finally, told you that initially I not only want to mention the premium cars again. Oh, this great 100,000 euro car, and this one is also great. Yeah, there are so many great cars which are at 100,000 euros or dollars. But then again, the Volkswagen T-Cross, the all-new smallest SUV, will also have a full driving review of that one soon. That one I found quite amazing also because it's not too high in the price. It's very versatile. We've seen it in our recent big SUV comparison episode that actually the cheapest and the smallest ones was one of the best in the test. And I think styling, design-wise, equal to the Suzuki Jimny a little bit. It has a strong design, although it's quite small. And it's very well usable for a lot of different needs. And it has very comfortable seats, more comfortable seats than I've experienced so far in any other vehicles of that size so far. So that's also pretty promising. Yeah, I mean, those are just some thoughts for me. I think it were actually 10 cars from Thomas here for 2018, which were quite impressive to me. If you like that episode, by the way, we'll also do the same one then for the next year. But I think there are also other team members who want to share their experience with you. Not everyone has to pick 10, just the ones that we say, those were standing out for some reasons. Let's continue with AJ.
Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you've been having a great holiday season. I've been spending a lot of quality time with friends and family, and of course, going on some great road trips. So, what are my top 3 for 2018? Well, first of all, it would have to be the Polo GTI. Secondly, the AMG GT 4-door coupe. And finally, one of the more recent cars that I drove, the Kia e-Niro. The Polo GTI I think is a great price-performance package. The engine, 200 horsepower, revs really high, sounds great, is a very lively engine. The chassis is also very capable, very planted, and it's got some practicality even though it's not that large. And I think it's priced just right. One thing perhaps that I would have liked a little bit differently would be the exterior design. I think it doesn't look as aggressive or as sporty or as dynamic and special as the Golf GTI, but that's something that's very subjective. The second car was the AMG GT 4-door coupe. Again, a very explosive car. So much of power, such a capable chassis, it's a riot. But on the inside, the space is a bit limited. Then again, people who buy this car probably are not looking for the most amount of interior space. And finally, the Kia e-Niro. Electric cars of the future, that we know, and this is a great place to start. It's built on a great platform, it drives really well, has a lot of space, a lot of practicality, and comes with Kia's 7-year warranty. It's very reliable. Perhaps some of the technologies like the GPS could have been a little bit better, but I'm really just nitpicking. So, these are definitely my top 3. Let me know what you guys think.
I had high expectations and I was not expecting for them to be met, but they were. Not only was that a fantastic car to drive, but I have to tell you, the amount of premium they managed to fit in what is a much more realistically priced entrance level vehicle for that sector is excellent. If you are in the premium small SUV market, then I highly recommend you give it a go. Now, I have to put in an honourable mention at that point for the Mazda CX-3, which I think is a very good car indeed. It didn't do so well in the reviews, and I think they were a little bit unfair with regards to that particular vehicle. Why? Well, you have to compare at price point. For one thing, it looks absolutely fantastic. For another thing, the drive really isn't bad. Mazda do make a good quality product. So if you can't quite afford the XC40's price point, do check out the Mazda. I think it's well worth your while giving it a try. Well, for this one, I'm going to go with something after my own heart, and that is the Opel Combo. Well, if I heard groans coming from you before, I'm certainly expecting to hear big groans from you now. What? I can almost hear you saying. Well, the reason it's on my list is, come on, I've got small kids, I don't have $1 million. I'm looking at cars that can achieve what I want practically, whilst not being hideous to drive around in. Now, this was always going to be a very interesting vehicle for me. You take a commercial platform and then you ask, can we realistically make it into something that's a little bit more passenger friendly? Well, for me, the key with this car is the fact that it was developed at exactly the same time alongside the commercial vehicle, and because of that, it doesn't feel like an afterthought to me. It delivers huge amounts in terms of its return for its cash investment. And yeah, I know you're going to have people saying, well, there's a lot of other vehicles that look exactly the same as this, but styling at this particular point is key for me, because you have to make so many compromises. I want just that little bit more, and for me the Opel delivers just a bit more than its competitors. So if you are in the market for a 5/7 seater and you don't have oodles of money, that is my pick. Take it out, give it a try, see what you think. Well, my last pick of the year has to go to the most fun I've had driving, and for me that would have to go to BMW's M2 Competition. Wow. Now, the naysayers will tell you you can have just as much fun out of a much cheaper Mazda, but you're always going to experience compromise when you're driving around in that. The nice thing with the M2 Competition is that you aren't compromised at all. The drive is just sublime. Okay, you can get better driving cars. Okay, you can get a lot of fun for a lot less money. But in terms of making sure that everything has been optimized and your driving experience does nothing but make you smile, this is my pick of the year. It's so much fun and still manages to be relatively practical. And I still just about think I could get away with turning up to pick up the kids in it. Well, just about. So I can say if you're in the market for huge amounts of fun and you have 70k, ouch, but still 70k burning a hole in your pocket, go check it out. It might not be the best car you've ever driven, it might not be the best use of your money you've ever spent, but it will give you an enormous amount of fun. So that's 2018. What are we looking for in 2019? Well, of course, we're continuing on with the trend of the ever blooming market of the SUV. And there are some particularly interesting cars coming up in 2019. Of special note, clearly, is going to be the brand new Land Rover Defender. Now, they had to stop making those because they couldn't make them fit the new compliance regulations in all of the markets. So Land Rover needed to take a pause before they had a complete redesign and rethink of that brand. I'm really interested to see how many of the buttons that car still manages to push. If you are liking the idea of a somewhat more expensive SUV, you're also going to be delighted to hear that Aston are coming out with their new DBX. So that's going to be their first entrant into that category. It ain't going to be cheap, so it better be good. If you're shopping with my kind of money, which is to say a little bit less, you're going to be very happy to hear that Nissan are bringing out a new Juke. Well, it's going to be interesting. Is it going to be any good? I don't know, I've got my reservations, but I am quietly confident. I think that they know what they're doing now, and it's going to be nice to see what they can add to their lineup this year. So, if half the story for 2019 is going to be SUV, the other half clearly is going to be all electric. And this is where we find the meeting of those two ideas. We're going to have lots of new ideas from different manufacturers. Key things to note, well, we already had the chance to take a good look at the new Audi e-tron, but those were manufacturer organized events. I'm very keen to get some hands-on driving experience with that to find out realistically what the batteries can deliver. We know we like to drive it, we know it's a great car, but can you live with it? I'm very keen to be finding out the answer to that. They won't be alone this year. Mercedes-Benz are entering the market with their EQC. Now, I have absolutely no expectations for that car whatsoever. It's going to be premium, but again, is it going to be practical enough that you'll be able to get the best of it? I don't know. Not a Mercedes guy, don't worry. Porsche are also leaping in there with their brand new Taycan. I think lots and lots and lots of stories are going to be told about the mileage that we should be getting from these cars. Will they live up to their promise? Well, I'm pretty excited to find out. But I'm also very keen to see what's happening in the normal human being car sector too. There's a brand new Mazda 3 coming out. I can't wait to get my hands on that. I'm a pretty big Mazda fan, and the 3 is great. I think in terms of return for investment, they deliver an awful lot of fun in a very small package. So I'm keen to see what's changed beyond the styling. I think it's going to be fresher, more contemporary, more interesting. But there's an awful lot of competition in that segment now, so it's going to be very interesting to see if they can deliver. Alongside that, we have a brand new Seat Leon. That I think is the brand's most popular vehicle. So very, very important in terms of relaunch. Last, by no means least, my personal favourite, the Toyota Corolla. It is the most popular car in the world and has been for some time. That doesn't make it attractive to look at. It does make it very cost effective to own. So they're having a rethink of their flagship too. I can't wait to see how they've managed to get on with that. So that's some of my highlights from this year and some of what I'm looking forward to in 2019. I hope you guys have enjoyed watching very much, and we can't wait to see you all in the new year.